Hi, it's Maija here with a video type that I haven't done in a long while, and that is a tag video. I am doing the I messed up book tag, which was originally created by Read Like Wildfire, and I was tagged by Shannon Riddler. I've recently enjoyed her channel because she does a lot of Netflix videos, movie videos where she chooses a double bill at random from Netflix, either by throwing a dice or by choosing from a jar with different lengths of movies in them, and then watching the movie and giving her impressions. And I haven't seen videos like that elsewhere. She also does booktube videos, and I will leave a link to her channel and the original tag down below. So the I messed up book tag, I have the questions next to me, so if I look there, that is why. And the first question is a character appearance that you misread and imagined differently. Now I'm sure that there is something, but I couldn't come up with a great example of a character's appearance as such. I probably imagined a lot of characters with, for example, different hair colors than they were said to have, and just imagined them with a different hair color until I suddenly find out in the middle of the book that, oh yeah, it was different. But the specific example that I can come up with, this is not a character appearance as such, but in A Memory of Water by Emmi Itaranta, the main character's best friend is a girl, but since I read it in Finnish, and Finnish has a gender-neutral third-person pronoun, I thought the best friend was a guy, like at least 2/3 of the book. I just didn't know that the character's name, Sonja, is a Finnish girl's name, but I had never come across it, so yeah, I thought that character was a guy for most of the book. The second question is a character name that you've been pronouncing wrong, and there must be like tons of these since I read a lot of fantasy in my teens. I read most of the fantasy characters' names as Finnish people would. So for example, I still don't know how to say his name in English. I call him Raistelin Majere. I've said this before, I don't know how to say especially his surname. I can guess it's Raistelin, but the surname I just say Majere. I also pronounced Caitlin Stark as Caitlin from A Song of Ice and Fire, and at least in the show it's pronounced Catelyn, so I just read it as Caitlin. But I think George R.R. Martin has said that there is no right way or wrong way to pronounce the character names, so I'm safe there. I also read Daenerys and Aegon in a Finnish way, so I read them as Daenerys and Aegon. And this is not a character, but this is my most embarrassing one. The Out Islanders from Robin Hobb's Realm of the Elderling series. I pronounced it in the first trilogy as Outislanders. And it took me so long, embarrassingly long, to realize that because it is Out Islands, they are Out Islanders. The third question is an overused trope that is your guilty pleasure. And this is not really a trope, but vampires. I love vampires. People can talk about oversaturation as much as they want, but I just want more vampires. Especially the egotistical, full of themselves vampires that are also secretly vulnerable. Also about tropes, I love it when villains and the heroes are forced to work together for something. That's something that I love. The fourth question is a cliché character type that you like better on screen than reading about. This is just generally villains. I often love villains in movies, but not so much in books. And I think that's because I want the visual addition to make a villain stick in my mind. Disney villains are a great example, like Jafar or Maleficent or Dr. Facilier. I absolutely love them. And in books that rarely happens that I'm drawn to the villain or that the villain is my favorite character. One instance that comes to mind is in Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. I absolutely love the gentleman with the thistledown hair, but in his, well, in the name already, there is the visual aspect of the thistledown hair. So he has white hair that is in a cloud like thistledown, and he wears a light green suit, so the visuals are very strongly present. But most often I prefer movie villains. The fifth question is a word or phrase that you learned because of its use in a book. And there are so many because English isn't my first language, so I learned so many English words from books. The first that comes to mind is unctuous from Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Unctuous was a term that was used to describe Professor Karkaroff's voice. As far as Finnish words go, I haven't come up with an example of a word that I would have learned from a Finnish book, but I learned a lot about English from books. And question number 6, have you ever not read or completed a required reading book for school? And this question doesn't really apply because we don't really have required reading in our schools in Finland, at least not when I was in school. If we had to do a book report or something like that, we could choose the book ourselves. The only book that I can remember was Seitsemän veljestä by Aleksis Kivi. Seven Brothers by Aleksis Kivi, which is a Finnish classic that we were supposed to read. I think most of us didn't read it, but I did read that one as well. So I have completed my required reading for school. Question number 7 is, have you ever skipped or wanted to skip a chapter from the point of view of a character that you weren't interested in? I have never skipped a chapter, even though I have wanted to. I always read everything in a book, but I really wanted to when I was reading A Feast for Crows. Basically, whenever there was a Greyjoy chapter that wasn't Asha. Also, I think it was in the Two Towers of the Lord of the Rings, where things with Legolas and company were just getting interesting, and then we switched back to Frodo and Sam. Of course, Frodo and Sam stuff became interesting as well, but the structure of having a chunk of these characters and then a chunk of others doesn't always work for me. And the final question, question number 8, is, have you ever cancelled social plans to read a book? And probably. I don't cancel like meeting up with a friend, but I do cancel bigger group social events, like things that I have answered interested in or maybe in Facebook. And if I don't feel like it on the day, I cancel, mostly because I don't feel like socializing, instead of specifically in order to read a book, but most often I do read something during the day. And now it's time to tag people, and I tag the 2 booktubers that I started following the most recently. So those are Reija from Both Thinkins and Leah from Leah Cooper. If you don't like doing the tags, or you have done this tag already in the past, feel free to disregard my tagging of you. But if you want to, please do it. I'd like to see your answers. So that's all from me. Let me know in the comments your biggest mess up when it comes to a character name or a character appearance, or just any question in this tag, and I will see you later. Bye.